coming up on Makosi Today.
Yo, what up? You're checking out Makosi Today. This is Tix, and I'm on rotation. I'm up next. Keep watching Today. They told me to say that.
Oh, you're not supposed to say that. On today's episode of Makosi Today, I come across somebody who's a male version of me, if you want to put it that way. He is a loving husband, an awesome father, and has the most intriguing story ever. What I like about my guest today is his confidence in himself and in God. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
From the dusty streets of Rimuka in Kaduma, Zimbabwe, to the bright lights of Egoli, Johannesburg, South Africa, TK struck gold when he became one of the most sought-after DJs in South Africa, hosting very popular shows on South Africa's Metro FM. Soon after, he landed a role as a TV presenter on the popular African television station, Channel O, which saw him rubbing shoulders with international celebrities and traveling across the globe to events such as the Reggae Summer Fest in Jamaica. In 2001, his career took a major nosedive when he was deported from South Africa. Devastated, he came back home and picked up the pieces to start all over again. Today, he's back on top and is one of the most recognized media personalities in Zimbabwe. Tonderai Nokutenda Katsande, popularly known as TK by his multitude of fans, he is the big dog on Zimbabwe's ZFM stereo. His popularity has seen him do numerous local and international TV adverts, shows, red carpet events, and even acting. Today, Makosi finds out what drives Zimbabwe's big dog.
Okay, so tell me about your childhood.
Well, I come from a very dysfunctional family. You know, I grew up with my grandparents, which was a blessing because they were an amazing couple. In fact, just yesterday I was looking at some pictures and I saw my grandfather, his picture, and I haven't thought about him in a while. I haven't seen a picture of him in a while. And he comes from that age where our people in Zimbabwe were still under the whole colonialism, and his highest achievement was he cooked for the Queen. So I only found out this the other day. I've always seen that certificate when I was growing up. So anyway, I grew up in Rimuka Township, went to a primary school called Mpamombe Primary, and it was a little mining town. It was called Gatuma then, beautiful. And in fact, the other day I was reflecting that I'm part of that generation that saw electricity being installed, especially in that part of town. You know, I went through something which was quite traumatic, come to think of it as a child. There was a battle, I think, at some point where my mom and dad, they were trying to take custodian of the children, of us, my sister and I. And I remember these big guys asking, who do you want to stay with? Do you want to stay with your mom? And can you believe that?
I know.
Now that, as a child.
Traumatic.
Well, I knew for certain that I wanted to stay with mom, but I didn't want to. Because I didn't grow up with her, and my dad was remarried. He had his wife and family, and I just thought my life would be better with my mother, so I really wanted to stay with my mom. So my mom is also coming from that generation. It's in the 80s. Zimbabwe is free. We've bought houses in Greendale, and people are moving on to the east side. They got themselves a piece of the pie, as the song goes. Yeah. So mom buys a house in Greendale, goes to the court and say, hey, you guys didn't give me my kids because I didn't have somewhere to stay. Now I've got a house and I want my kids, and the whole process took a bit long. My dad, even though I was staying with my grandparents, was kind of resisting that. So my mom was ghetto, yeah? She'd just come straight out of Mbari to Greendale. So one day, after having spent the 3 weeks with her, my dad was coming to pick me up, and the next thing we were jumping over. They used to call them Tonderai in Mbari, the back alleys. Jumped over, there was a cab, boom, went, and then we just sort of disappeared off the map from my grandparents. The next thing I knew, I was wearing these clothes. I was going to a new school. I'm now staying with my mom, and I was going to an A school from Mpamombe Primary School, which is in Zimbabwe, we call them B schools.
Right.
So, and I was with my sister. My sister had already been staying with my mom for over a year. I remember that morning when I dressed up and going to school and thinking, damn, what is I going to do? Because I couldn't speak English. I just come from Remuka Township.
How old were you then?
I remember it was the beginning of grade 7.
So that's 11, 12.
Yeah, thereabout.
Okay.
So I spoke to my little sister, who was my little sister. I'm like, hey, what am I going to do? I I can't speak English, you know. And, you know, my sister sort of brushed it, like, I don't know, everything will be okay. And I went to this school, which is Courtney Salute Primary School. And there I was, grade 7, seeing all these kids, a totally different world, coming from Kadoma, Remuka Township, where kids went to school without shoes. And that was normal, even in the winter. And here we are with guys with ties, socks, gathers, blazers, briefcases, whatever they had. Played rugby, went to Churchill High School, did my A-levels there. And yeah, I'm very grateful for my past and all the experiences that I've had. I think
Because our past make us.
they define us. Yeah, absolutely.
So you played a lot of sport, but what are your hobbies now?
Well, I like to read a lot of stuff. I also spend a lot of time with dogs, believe it or not. I like dogs.
How many do you have?
I have 4 at my house. In total, I have 8. Some of them I've sort of placed them in homes where they take good care of them, like my cousin Daisy. I've given her a dog called Ginger. She totally loves it. I think it's the most spoiled dog in the country right now.
Okay, enough about your pets. Let's talk about your family. You're married and you have how many kids?
No, I'm not married. I'm happily married. Yeah. I've got 5 kids. Mamboetu, the firstborn, he's 16. Stephanie, 15. Secondborn, Charlotte, turning 13. Thirdborn, Jessica, turning 5. Oh no, she turned 5, yeah, in January.
Okay.
And the last one is a bit of a handful. Her name is Tanikwa Dorothy Katsande. Man.
How old is Tanisha?
She's 3 years old, but I wish I should have had her here.
I know, right?
She's lately calling me Mr. TK. Hey, Mr. TK. Hey, because she's Tanikwa, so TK Junior.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, I think family is such a blessing, and for me, really. Even having grown up with my dysfunctional family as we're growing up, the one thing that I really wanted in life, and I say to myself, and I constantly did say this to myself, that when I grow up, I want to have that family, like those families that I used to see on TV. I want to have a happy life. I want my wife, I want my kids to be happy. You can almost call it prayer, because that was my prayer, like this is what I want. This, and you know, that is manifesting
And that's what you have
in my life, and that's
it's
what I have.
important to have a vision.
It is important to have a vision.
Especially for family and for personal life.
Absolutely. So, you know, I'm having that. And the other day, my daughter gave me a nice compliment. She says, Dad, I hope I get to marry a man like you. Oh, man.
Is
you know,
awesome.
Yeah, and I was really touched, because we were also taught, like at church, for example, that we must model these things for the kids, because the kids these days are growing up in a world where technology has become a solution for everything. I mean, for their pastime, they sit down, they watch TV, they're on the internet, they're on WhatsApp. So there's all sorts of influence going in and around them. And in our society, Zimbabwean culture, so to speak, it's a very reserved sort of culture. Back in the days, you get your tetes to talk to your kids. I don't think that's happening anymore.
No.
So where does that leave the children? Where do they get mentored? Where do they see the role models? Is it Jay-Z that they want to see? Is it Kanye, Kardashian, or whoever? So we have to intentionally model lifestyles for these kids. 1, hard work. 2, a good environment, love within the parents themselves, and 3, to always, you know, paint a vision and think of where they want to be at.
Coming up after the break.
We can't get into ZFM before we talk about South Africa.
Ooh, South Africa, you know, sometimes I think it's just like one of those doors that one shuts and never opens.
Now, TK, you are here today because you're a successful radio DJ. Like, we can't get into ZFM before we talk about South Africa.
Ooh, South Africa, you know, sometimes I think it's just like one of those doors that one shuts and never opens. But I'll tell you about it. When I finished my A-levels back in the day, my mom was very like, you must go to find a job, you must work. And in my mind, I don't know where I had conjured up these thoughts. I thought, you know, I want to go on a gap year, travel around the world after my A-levels, and then decide what I want to do in life or where I want to be at. I knew I wanted to be in the arts industry, graphic designing, you know, and something in communications advertising. That's really what I wanted to do. But But my mom wasn't having any of that. She was like, get up, go and get a job in the industry. And I'm thinking, me, industry, I know I done come from Kadoma, but I done change, y'all. So I wasn't trying to do the industry stuff. So one day, I don't know where this came from. I sold a watch that my mom had bought me for my birthday. I sold it for $75 Zim dollars back in the day. And I decided, you know what, to hell with this, I'm going to South Africa. I didn't know anyone there. I sold my watch. Woke up on a Sunday morning, I remember very clearly, at about 4:45 early in the morning, and the lady that helped us around the house was just sweeping up because it's Sunday. She was going off, and she's like, "We're going to coffee." I'm like, "I'm going to my friends, I'll be back." And so I went to Kumbuzi. As I was hiking, the first truck actually stopped for me, and I gave this guy a freestyle story. The next thing, we were in Kempton Park in Johannesburg, and he's assuming that I know the place. But you know, thinking back, I can almost get that feeling. I was 100% confident. I was in that zone, in that place. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't worried about where I was going to sleep, what I was going to eat. I have good enough. I wasn't worried about anything. So anyway, as the story goes, I'm walking down Small Street Mall and I bump into the one guy. This all happened like the guy dropped me off at about 5:30 in the morning. I was in town at about 7:30, 8 o'clock. I met some dude who was going to work. He's like, "Hey, I know you." My mom used to go up and down South Africa. He's like, "I know your mom helped me." She said, "So what are you doing here? And what are you doing by yourself?" And I'm like, "Who told you I'm by myself?" He's like, "Yeah, but you know." So anyway, cut the story short, he then told me where he was staying. He gave me accommodation. We went to stay in one of those places where they would have a room like this full of like 10 Zimbabweans with little mattresses. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, my mom had no idea where I was because I didn't tell anybody. So I was going to school doing this. Then I called my mom one day because I just missed her. I was worried about her, and I told her I was in Joburg. Within 24 hours, she'd come to get me there. And then I think for the first time, she asked me what it is that I wanted to do, and then I told her I wanted to do this gap thing, but I really wanted to go to university. I had all the papers and everything, and you know, so in Greendale where we grew up, the yards were pretty big, 2 acres and so forth, and she didn't have the money to send me to the States, so she devised a way of selling half of or the acre of the 2 acres so that I could go for school. But then she passed on. That was back in 95, and things didn't manifest. Somehow I got back to Joburg and I started working up the ladder. My first job was now a salesman on the street, selling very useless toys. But that is the job that taught me how to speak. Because, you know, if you didn't sell, you didn't eat. It almost like shooting for port.
So how did you end up on radio?
Very interesting one there. There was a station called Kenny FM which broadcasts from Hyde Park in South Africa. It's a community radio station. The one time I wrote to them, I said, "Hey, if they had a slot guest DJ on a Tuesday morning between 3 and 6 a.m. in the morning." So I wrote to them, I said, "I want to be on." So they gave me an opportunity and I recorded the whole show. I had a fantastic time. Recorded the show, and when I got home, I remember it was Tuesday in the afternoon. Yes, I wrote them a letter and I said, "Hey guys, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I certainly enjoyed the experience, but here's my tape. You know, I think your station could do very well with someone like me. You need me." One of those daring things. Exactly. And I actually got a phone call. They said, "Hey, you can have that slot." That was the beginning of radio. So then worked for Highfield, worked for Metro, came back here, worked for Radio 3 or 3 FM, and now I'm with Z FM Stereo.
Do you want to talk a little about how you came back?
Well, yeah, I could. That's pretty simple. Well, I'll tell you what, because I went there, as I was telling you, back in the day, you know, just a guy on the street selling toys. And so when I started getting employed, when I started being employed, I had sort of challenges with my papers and stuff, and especially receiving salaries and payment, because people pay into the bank. So people would ask you for an ID number, And the thing is, you see, you'd have Abomachita boys along the way. They say, "We can fix this for you, TK. We know some people." So one thing led to another, and the next thing I had acquired a South African birth certificate, acquired South African passport and IDs and everything else. And so I was Tonderai Katsande, born in South Africa. And things worked out for a while, but you know, it caught up. So when it did caught up, I was working for Metro FM, and at that time Metro FM, there was a lot of repositioning happening because new stations like YFM, Highfield Stereo were coming onto the scene, and Metro FM had always enjoyed sort of like this the whole big piece of the pie by themselves, and so they had to reposition. So they took a guy called Romeo Kumalo, who was one of the DJs on Metro FM. They made him the station manager, and this guy had vision and thought, you know what, I'm going to bring in new talent and do something new. So what he did is I don't know whether he fired everybody or let go of everybody. He told them to reapply, you know, and he had in mind whatever he wanted to do.
Right.
And so we came in as a new wave of new on-air personalities on the repositioned Metro FM. And from my understanding, I think it's one of the guys that was then retrenched. They said, hey, this guy is one of us. How is he firing us and hiring foreigners? So he made a case with the Home Affairs and so forth and so on, and yeah. But I got caught with my pants down, long story short.
Coming up after the break.
You know, I grew up in Remuka Township. We don't understand depression as a disease or a condition.
Right.
It's like, you get over it. So, yeah, in a way, and then I came back.
And then you disappeared though when you came back. What was going on during that time?
You know, when I came back, I think, looking back now, it seems quite a light thing, but I remember I had a very difficult experience. I was working for Channel O, I was working for Metro, I was doing big, you know, quite okay. And celebrity, so to speak, and here I'm back home and I have nothing to show. So I literally spent a year indoors reading my Bible and just, you know, socializing, playing games on the computer. And I think for me that was probably the biggest mistake. I took long to bounce back. I was licking my wounds and staying at home, you know. 2-3 years later, then I started approaching the ZBC people and, you know, got a job there. Worked on the television side. They had just started something called KidsNet. Came up with a program called Spotlight where we went and scouted, like, you know, young music talent. And we found people like Rocky Josphas, Tambawoga, Ngoni, Rute, all those
Urban
guys came,
groups.
urban groups, yeah.
Right.
Not the urban groups, I think it had already been, there was something that had been started. I think Shamiso had been done, but that was probably the new wave of artists that, you know, we went out there and found.
Would you say you got depressed?
You know, I grew up in Remuka Township. We don't understand depression as a disease or a condition.
Right.
It's like, you get over it. So, yeah, in a way, it's really nothing that nobody understood at that time. But, you know, I just knew in my inner self that it was something that I had to just grit my teeth and get through it. And I'd call my son, had just turned 2, he was still in South Africa, and I'd call him. And, you know, I think he purposely learned the words like, when are you coming to fetch me? Daddy, when are you? Because he'd think I'm around, and oh man. And I was seeing this young little item there, bruh, hot, yeah. And I'd call her in the evening and you can feel the knives and forks like, oh, she's out for dinner.
Oh no.
Man, yeah.
But you ended up with your childhood sweetheart.
I ended up with my childhood sweetheart. We bumped into each other and then we reignited. I met her on the school bus when we were growing up. So, you know, we're together and I'm happy.
I love that. That's the very reason I wanted you to come on, because this happens to a lot of people.
Wow.
But they never have nobody is there to say, listen, it's okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have a home.
Yeah.
When you come back home,
We
don't
start
hide.
again, yeah.
Start again. I think giants are made in isolation. Like,
I like that.
You know, you
I
have,
like that.
You know, there always has to be an incubation. Even when you're having a baby, for 9 months you have to incubate them.
Yeah.
But what I can say to every foreigner out there, like be it Zimbabwean, Nigerian, Ghanaian, if you're in England and you're watching this, if you're in
Word.
America and you're watching this, your flag is always there to protect you. Like nobody
No place
can
like
tell
home.
you you're less of a person because you hold a work permit or you hold a visa. If things get hard, come back home.
Yeah.
Because your flag will always protect you.
Bachele. All right, that's cool. The nice thing about sometimes traveling and working out there is the exposure. Look at you with Makosi today. You know, that exposure, we bring it in, we make Zimbabwe work. We get together with progressive people that might not have had the privilege of having that exposure, but they have imagination, they have a dream, they have a vision. And when we plug in together, I can see that Switzerland, Zimbabwe coming around.
So what's your vision? Where are we going from now? What do you have in store for us?
I have a company called DICE Media, which stands for Diversified Innovations in Communications and Entertainment. It's an acronym. So I'm doing advertising, but using popular culture to create brands seamlessly with the entertainment message. So I need to get back there. I was getting into radio and settling in there. I need to get in there and start coming up with TV shows, start coming up with events and all sorts of other things that are now coming into being because of new media.
You know, when people see you and when people interact with you, they don't know that we have this amazing father, loving husband, and you know a man is loving if he says he's happy, and a visionary for our country. TK, it was awesome having you on. All things work together for the good for those who love the Lord. I don't mean to get all Juanita Bynum on you, but if you hear TK's story, he fell a lot, but he got up and he kept pushing. And now he's one of our greatest assets in Zimbabwe. If your story relates to what we spoke about with TK today, if you're depressed over anything like not getting a job or life is just hard, write to us on info@makositoday.com. Until next time, take care of each other and take care of yourself. Welcome to Readers Are Leaders. This week I'm reading Hero by Rhonda Byrne. She wrote the book The Secret. Millions of you might remember it because it was a New York Times bestseller. In summary, The Secret: thoughts become words and words become things. In the Bible, seed time and harvest. What you sow is what you reap. But what is she talking about in this book? It's just a continuation really of The Secret. More motivational stuff. I'll read a passage for you. Greatness is not being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Following your dreams and realizing the hero within you is greatness. So what she's telling us in this book is, you and I are heroes, but you have to figure out the hero in you. How are you going to figure out the hero in you if you're not reading books like The Hero, books like The Secret, and what we reviewed last week? If you've got any questions about the books we are reading this week or the books we're going to be reading next week, or any books that you want us to review, send us an email at info@makositoday.com.
Next on Makosi Today.
I lost my weight with Sweat 1000. I was 15 kilos overweight and I lost the weight.
So you have lost a whopping 42. How did you do that?
You can burn up to 1,000 calories, even more, even less. It depends on how hard you push yourself.
As the ghost say, Ratuba, Rachesa, Rehoto, Rasweta.
Let's do it again.